Yo, it's Austin, and it's time for us to dip our toes into something a little more anime. I've been holding back on this one for a while, but it's finally time. I have one goal today, and that's to tell you why you should play Danganronpa. Danganronpa, or as it's more commonly known in the States as Danganronpa, Trigger Happy Havoc, is a little franchise that kinda came out of nowhere. It's a series with an extremely interesting development history and an absolutely absurd fandom-oriented localization. I could sit here reading a Wikipedia page and regurgitate to you that it's basically Phoenix Wright mixed with Battle Royale except way more anime, but I won't. Danganronpa deserves more. The developers of Spike Chunsoft deserve more, but most importantly, you deserve more. So sit back and allow me to tell you about one of my favorite lesser-known franchises, Danganronpa. Way before Trigger Happy Havoc, even prior to Spike Chunsoft as a company, we had Distrust. No, not the jammin' song, but a canceled game called Distrust. Back when the PSP was all the rage in Japan, Spike was in the market to create a low-cost game in order to attempt and capture a little stake in the meth squirrel market. This effort, spearheaded by lead writer Kazutaka Kodaka and producer Yoshinori Terasawa, would become a murder mystery visual novel called Distrust. In all capital letters. By the way, keep these two in mind because they're very important. Early concepts and interviews showed that Kodaka was pushing Distrust as a, quote, high-speed reasoning action type of game, which sounds like it should be under the Metal Gear Solid logo. It's hard to tell what exactly Distrust was going to be based on the limited screenshots and concepts that we were shown. However, this video isn't about Distrust, this is about Danganronpa. Because, you know, this game, it's not real. It's my own theory that due to the lukewarm Japanese reception of 999, also made by Spike Chunsoft, and the over-the-top gruesome deaths and executions, that Distrust was tossed into the recycling bin. However, the Battle Royale-inspired, no, not that one, concept would be tweaked and in the following year become something a little more marketable. So how do you make something sell in Japan? Well, it already had a bit of an anime art style, which is usually a shoo-in. I think we need more. More anime. And what we got was Danganronpa Kibo no Gakuen to Zetsubo no Kokosei, which is a lot of words, or as we know it better in the States as Trigger Happy Havoc Danganronpa. Danganronpa is quite an odd name for a franchise. Roughly translated, it's a portmanteau of Dangan and Rampa, which mean bullet and refute in Japanese, or basically bullet refutation. But why bullets? Well, that's our main gameplay mechanic. No, not guns, but arguing with people cleverly disguised as a bit of a first-person shooter. One where you literally shoot through people's words with your own. Shooty refuty. A lot of elements carried over from the original project. Be it character names, similar designs, even the main mascot character, Monokuma. We'll get into Monokuma in a bit, but all I can say is that I'm glad they didn't go with the original design because, dude, imagine Spike Chunsoft trying to push this thing as the Sonic or Mario of their company. Yikes. While we might not have known what Distrust was going to be, I can tell you exactly what Danganronpa is. Part visual novel, part puzzle game, part battle royale, part gripping murder mystery, or I guess high-speed reasoning action. Danganronpa tosses us into the role of Makoto Naegi, a young and impressionable young boy about to experience his first day at Hope's Peak Academy. This is Japan's most prestigious high school, where only the most talented and high-tier students attend. If this sounds extremely generic, well, it's supposed to be. Danganronpa as a whole likes to play on common anime tropes and does it so well. We'll see more of this as we continue through the franchise, so trust me when I say Danganronpa will surprise you. After monologuing for a brief moment, Makoto finally embraces his destiny and takes his first step into Hope's Peak Academy, only to immediately start tripping on acid, you know, your normal college experience. It's then he awakens to find himself in a strange empty classroom with the windows all bolted shut, which is a pretty normal Texan school experience. After exploring the strange corridors of Hope's Peak, Naegi finally runs into the very, very colorful cast of characters you'll soon learn to love. Well, most of them. Fuck Hifumi. But every Danganronpa character has a special talent or an ultimate ability. In Japan, they were called super high school level, implying they were just really good at one particular thing. But I guess us Westerners wanted to pump it up to the extreme, so ultimate it is. Everyone is shown as being extra as all hell, with talents like Aoi Asahina, the ultimate swimming pro, Leon Kuwata, the ultimate baseball star, and Hifumi Yamada, the ultimate fanfic creator. Yeah, told you, he sucks. Makoto Naegi, however, doesn't have a talent. He only got accepted into Hope's Peak Academy by luck of the draw, earning him the title of the ultimate lucky student. Enter your protagonist's internal struggle. Sad boy feeling sad and inferior, undeserving of being around his peers. The self-insert to end all self-inserts, except that's not super important when you find yourself locked in a giant, creepy academic institution. Before long, we find ourselves meeting the strangely charming yet absolutely terrifying antagonist of the entire franchise, Monokuma. And yeah, no, not that one. This one. Monokuma is a teddy bear mecha, maybe controlled, maybe not controlled death machine who exists for only one purpose, and that's to make high schoolers kill each other. As far as we know at this point, Monokuma has imprisoned all of the kids in a death trap. With no knowledge of the outside world or what's happening, it's his mission to get big murder. And if they refuse, well, Monokuma's gonna find a way. After all, in this killing game, silencing someone leads to freedom. But hold on a sec. Now, the concept of Danganronpa is pretty interesting in its own right, but that's not the main draw to me. After all, like a cool concept without any meat is just a skeleton, but thankfully, Dangan is all about the characters. If you've been following me for a while, then you'll know that I like character and story-driven games just as much as gamey games. When I initially picked up Danganronpa, it was my first time playing anything akin to a visual novel besides, say, the Persona games, and I was so drawn in by what was going on. While a few interactions in the pilot fall flat, the bigger picture thankfully pulls everything together. Main story sequences are sewn together through exploration and free time that you can spend with whatever student you'd like. Not everyone's going to be friendly towards Naegi at the beginning of the game, and some interactions are tied with story events. While overall, Danganronpa is a linear experience, the little choices you get to make do add a lot to characters you want to chill with. And you better get time in because, well, this is a murder mystery game. Distrust was going to be similar to the 999 games with an open-ended structure to the story. Your choices would directly affect who lives and dies during each sequence. However, in the end, Danganronpa decided to make a straightforward narrative in an attempt to tell a cohesive story, something Zero Time Dilemma would suffer from. Because of this, almost everyone gets enough screen time to get fleshed out in a meaningful way. Put that together with big murder and you'll have yourself a very sad video game. Every chapter plays out like a short story. Once acquainted with your new classmates, tensions are high and you're doing your best just to stay alive. Friends are being made, alliances and friendships formed, notable dickheads are pointed at, and the stage is set. But at some point, someone's gotta die. Usually this is tied to Monokuma presenting the class with a type of motive, be it a dark secret or knowledge pertaining to the outside world or family. You spend time between major story sequences chatting with friends before the inevitable happens. Murder. Psst, I'm not gonna spoil you. This is from a demo and it's non-canon. Don't worry, I wouldn't do that to you goobs. From here, we learn that the murderer isn't just gonna get off scot-free because a class trial has to be held. Monokuma law dictates that upon a killing, the class must succeed in finding the blackened or face mass execution. In other words, the perpetrator has to successfully hide their identity, and if that works, everyone else dies as well. It's pretty high-stakes, fucked up situation. From here, you'll investigate the entire school for clues. You know, your standard murder mystery fare. It's really cool to see how rooms change based on the conflicts that happen from chapter to chapter and how small little things may turn into huge revelations. Once all of the clues are gathered, you hear that very chilling and it's on to the class trial. Now, here's where the fun part comes in. No longer are we stuck reading, it's time to use our friggin' brains in order to solve the case. With truth bullets. Our main trial gameplay mechanic is called the non-stop debate, where the cast of characters yell at each other until you manage to break it up. Each Danganronpa starts out very simply. Each bullet represents a clue that you found during the investigation, and the main goal here is to find people's statements and shoot through them, making it a contradiction. The further you get into the game, the more active choices there's going to be to pick from. There are also other minigames that take place in the trials, such as Hangman's Gambit, which can be hit and miss thanks to the translation and the fact that it requires you to think on your own with words like schizo. There's also a rhythm minigame, which is easy enough. It's okay. These games would become better designed with other games in the franchise, but it all leads up to an exciting conclusion where you have to recreate the entire murder in a puzzle sequence accompanied by amazing music. Oh, did I mention Danganronpa's soundtrack yet? Because yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. I've been using tracks in my videos for years now. Composer Masafumi Takada created a haunting yet exciting soundtrack that strikes right in the most visceral of places. Solving murders have never sounded so good. You might recognize Takada from other games as well, such as No More Heroes, Vanquish, Digimon Cyber Sleuth, or God Hand. Easily one of the modern era's most talented composers. Here, check out a few of his tracks. Okay, back to the murder. Danganronpa does such a good job appealing to human empathy. In a lot of mystery or lawyer type games, you're given little to no development for the bad guys. Just kind of like a, I didn't kill him, into a, oh no, you find out that I murdered, oh no. Danganronpa seems to do that, but also spends a lot of time giving you reasons to feel sorry for them. Spending upwards of 20 to 30 hours with a character only to find out they were killed or broke mentally and resorted to it in order to escape. You're gonna have dark feelings, man, or, as the game likes to call it, despair. Hope and despair, or Kibo and Zetsubo, are the central themes of Danganronpa. While it can get a little hammy at times, the emotionally gripping moments strike really hard. I think this is due to the predictable nature of media, especially in anime. Modern shonen anime is nearly inconsequential in the storytelling. So-and-so's gonna get a power-up to get stronger and overcome the challenge. Antagonists become maybe good guys, and deaths are usually reversible. These tropes don't exist in Danganronpa. It's darker, it hurts, it's gonna sucker punch you. I think that's maybe why it speaks to me on such an intrinsic level. In a world filled with repetition and foreseeable storytelling, Danganronpa, no matter the entry, will surprise you. As a linear game, it may not be the most replayable one, but the story, the open-ended nature of the ending, the characters resonate brightly. Enough so that the game had a wild Western following years before it ever released outside of Japan. Back in the day on the website Something Awful, a user by the name of Orin Ronan began a text and picture let's play of the original Danganronpa, translating all the events they played, the case trials, the entire game. This began in 2011, and Trigger Happy Havoc didn't see a US release until February of 2014. Entire fandoms would gather to celebrate at conventions based on a fan-translated project, which, to my knowledge, is something that hasn't really happened since. There were even conflicts between the Tumblr scene at the Something Awful website, who would occasionally erect a paywall, disabling people from reading the latest Danganronpa translations. Memes would explode out of this scene, including the one time a dude cosplayed as the Something Awful paywall, which is like, it's like the most niche thing. Orin Ronan would continue to support their Let's Play to completion, and even began doing the same thing for the sequel, Super Danganronpa 2 Farewell Despair Academy. However, they would drop work on the project in early 2014, leaving fans with a half-translated game and nothing to go on unless they were fluent in Japanese. So also in 2014, we would get Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair. While Dangan 2 came out on PSP in Japan in 2012 and Vita in 2013, we would only have to wait 7 months between the two games in English-speaking countries. Somehow Spike Chunsoft was able to translate, localize, voiceover, and release both of these games with such a short time between them. That meant that 2014 was one hell of a year for me. Not just one, but 2 solid video games in this franchise that I'd never heard of before. Dude, I ate that shit up. I was lucky to have waited to play Danganronpa 1 until sometime after I picked up the sequel, and when I finally got around to them, I had quite the amazing spoil-free journey. On the exterior, Danganronpa 2 looks like more of the same, and it kind of is that. More lovable characters, more insane class trials, more big murder. New additions to the gameplay include exploration being split up into first-person and side-scrolling action. You take steps to raise some kind of Tamagotchi monster, but I would let it die constantly, so I have no idea what that's about. Minigames that were slightly awkward were revamped, like Hangman's Gambit, and a few new ones were added. Rebuttal Showdown is a non-stop debate-style game where you gotta hack and slash through people's words, and Logic Dive is like, woo! Logic Dive is something. You're figuring out the answers to big moments while also platforming and racing through a wild digital world, literally diving into your own brain, which is apparently the color green. Answering a question can be nerve-wracking because you have to navigate around the platforms and think on your toes. It can be slightly janky at times, but the extra mix-ups in gameplay styles give that much-needed variety. Character and story-wise, I personally was taken to a level even higher than the original game. This time you're in control of resident good boy Hajime Hinata, a boy who doesn't remember his talent. While the first half of Danganronpa 2 kind of feels like an expansion, the second half jumps about 30 sharks and hits story beats that I've never seen in any kind of video game. We're presented with so many strange questions, such as why is Monokuma here? Why is there a pink Monokuma? And why is Byakuya Togami fat in this game? Did he eat everyone from the first one? Most of these questions are answered, as well as a few revelations tossed out here and there. Gets fucking crazy. I'll be real, after playing Danganronpa 2, it quickly shot up into being one of my favorite games of all time. The strange yet oddly alluring art style by Rui Komatsuzaki really begins to shine here. The claustrophobic nature of the first game led to the world and characters feeling very closed off and in the dark. The tight corridors reflected anxiety and depression. Since Danganronpa 2 takes place on a set of islands, I feel as if Komatsuzaki got to have more freedom. While I know some people seem to be off-put by his character design as it is extremely anime, like more anime than anime might seem, I find the details and worlds to be intriguing and unique, unlike anything I've seen in the medium. Also, Chiaki, best girl. Sony Nevermind's not bad either. The same crew pumped out another amazing game, and one that would cement Danganronpa's place in the gaming industry as a powerhouse for Spike Chunsoft. From here, things were about to get a little crazy. The latest game in the franchise, Danganronpa V3, didn't come out till 2017, while Danganronpa 2 came out in 2012. That means there's a lot of space, and you know what happened in that space? Stuff! Let's get into it. Shortly after Danganronpa 1 was released, it received an anime adaptation. It's okay. It covers a lot of the same ground, but shoving a 30-hour game into a 13-episode show cuts off a lot of the content and development, so it leaves some to be desired. This anime also got a US manga adaptation, which has major spoilers for the end of the game in the fan art section in the first book, so good job whoever did that one. We've also got a metric fuck ton of light novels. Danganronpa Kirigiri, Danganronpa Togami, Danganronpa Zero, Danganronpa If, Makoto Naegi's Secret File, Ultra Despair Hagakure for some reason. I've only read Zero and If, but I highly recommend Zero at some point. It takes place prior to the events of 1. Obviously, it's in the name, but it goes places that are pretty solid for a novel. Zero is available in a fan translation, and If is unlockable for beating the first game, but unfortunately, a lot of these novels and manga aren't fully translated, so looking at the covers will have to do for now. What if you're not a fan of anime or video games or reading? Well then, how about a stage play of the first and second game with multiple runs? Video game and anime stage plays aren't really a thing in the States, and the fact that I've seen them happen for all kinds of stuff, even like sports anime, is just absurd. But hey, it's something. Several compilations, radio dramas, and art books later, we would finally get the next video game in the franchise with a spin-off. Enter Ultra Despair Girls Danganronpa Another Episode. Ultra Despair Girls, which is a hell of a name for a video game, is okay. Coming out in September of 2014, Despair Girl served as a bit of a bridge between the events that happen in the universe. Obviously, I'm not gonna say when because Danganronpa is really spoil heavy, but I will say it stars Komaru Naegi, the younger sister of Makoto from the original. While being held as a prisoner in her own house, Komaru finds a way to bust out and enter the crazy outside world. She splits screen time with Danganronpa Danganronpa 1's Toko Fukawa. The problem with Despair Girls is that by going from a visual novel to a janky third-person shooter, they kind of didn't seem like they knew how to make it play well. Sure, the story and dialogue in this game is allegedly fun. I haven't played it, and the story explains a lot of stuff, but I wasn't able to get through it myself. As far as I know, Komaru's character is that she has big titties, which is like, I guess that's her personality? Considering all of Danganronpa tells a single story, I ended up reading the plot synopsis, but I do plan to revisit it at some point. Maybe. But we aren't done. Next up is another anime, this time called Danganronpa 3, The End of Hope's Peak Academy High School. This anime's freaking weird because it's split into two parts that you have to watch side by side, the Future arc and the Despair arc. When this was airing, you'd get 2 episodes a week, which was actually pretty cool. This was airing alongside a manga called Danganronpa Gaiden Killer Killer. Listen, 2016 was a good-ass year to like Danganronpa. Now, a lot of people think Danganronpa 3 is trash, but I'm gonna stand here and die on this hill and say that it's fine. Series writer and anime supervisor Kodaka wanted to tell a story that wouldn't have worked in a video game. That being the Future arc being a sequel to the story and the Despair arc a prequel. This anime was at its best when it didn't focus on a small batch of the new characters, which it unfortunately did for like 3 episodes straight, but a lot of the revelations and character development from Makoto and the cast of Danganronpa 2 and the prequel arc made it worthwhile to me. Also, the OPs are so good. Give it a shot and see what you think. I really like it. But we aren't done yet! In January of 2017, Danganronpa V3 finally was released in Japan and September everywhere else. And it's, fucking great. So much so that I put it at number 1 on my Game of the Year list. I already talked about it briefly, but let's go into it just one more time. V3 is kind of a game changer. In the mainline games in the franchise, we've seen a jump in quality with each entry, and V3 is no different. Considering we've already talked a bit about V3, I'll keep it short, but this game is so spoiler heavy that I can barely show you the main game, so I'll keep it to mostly demo footage, with Hagakure dying again. Nice. Additions to the gameplay include further upgrades to the Hangman's Gambit minigame, making it finally fun, rhythm minigames, and a plethora of new ones. We've got Mind Mine, which is a puzzle game that has you digging around for the right answer, Psych Taxi, which isn't as fun as Logic Diving from 2, but it's still okay. But most importantly, we've got Debate Scrum, which happens when the argument in the class trial is split evenly. Also, it's got this song. I know, it's great! Thank you, Based Masafumi. Almost every single new character is one that I have a bunch of affinity for. Considering V3 is nearly twice as long as the past 2 games, more time is dedicated to fleshing out every single one of them. Jesus Christ, are they fleshed out. The previous Danganronpa games had Despair, but V3 knocks that out of the park and is like, look at this dark cloud of shit, Despair, this is you! It's very emotionally gripping. For the first time in the mainline series, you get to play as a female with Kaede Yakamatsu. While in the past we've been tossed into the shoes of a male character thinking mostly male thoughts, the inner monologues of Kaede are super interesting to me. While it may not get as radical as, say, her talking about boys, V3 definitely passes the Bechdel test. Also, she talks about titties sometimes. The localization of V3 seems to have just gone for it, because the amount of modern references and vulgarity written in for specific characters is just wild. I never thought I would hear the words cum dumpster in a video game before, but hey, Danganronpa V3, everyone. But that doesn't mean V3 is without a sentimental side. Many people I know, including myself, had to take breaks from playing at certain key moments. As someone who typically binges new releases of things that he loves, that speaks to me a lot. But let's talk about controversy. While I won't get into anything specific, I will say that V3's ending is left very open in a way that the original game was as well. I'll make a spoiler video for V3 at some point if you've played it, but let's just say you gotta sit and think on it for a bit. I was lost in thought for a day or two after reaching the conclusion, but decided in the end, after rewatching it over and over, that it was my favorite game and ending. We'll talk about that another time, but all I can say is that, at least to me, playing and watching through the entire Danganronpa franchise was completely worth it. The fandom and community surrounding Danganronpa are, to say the least, pretty wild. The subreddit is usually pretty active, even when there's no Danganronpa news in sight. If you like weird-ass surrealist memes or theory discussion, this is the place to go. During the anime's airing, this place was on fire weekly. I loved it. Anytime I visit a convention, there's some sort of cosplay or print or even crossover thing being pushed. It seems that Spike Chunsoft has really taken on the franchise as a mainstay, throwing the evil mascot Monokuma into all kinds of games, even Western indies such as Pixel Junk Monsters 2, which is really good by the way. However, with series lead writer Kodaka stepping down after V3 and saying on Twitter that he'd done everything he wanted to do with V3, the series' future is a bit up in the air at the moment. With the team moving on to the newly announced Zenki Zero, which based on the trailer seems to be a time-based dungeon crawler, it's unclear as to what we're gonna see next. Based on the fact that Danganronpa has been such a roaring success in Japan and slowly more and more so in the States, I can't imagine we've seen the end. A franchise with humble and retooled beginnings, only accessible in the States initially by a forum, turning into a powerhouse with multiple animations, stage plays, and loads of merchandise. As a fan of Danganronpa, I highly implore that you play these games. I've had a lot of success turning my friends onto them, even if they weren't initially interested in visual novels. But that's because Danganronpa is so much more than a visual novel. It's an exercise in subverting the player's expectations. They're carefully crafted stories that know how to sink their teeth deep into you. They're an exploration of anime as a genre, deconstructing tropes, character archetypes, even the feelings of the player. The only tropes it seems to have are ones specifically for Danganronpa, such as chapter structure, or the fact that all of the main characters got one of them ahoges. Pointy little things, aren't they? You could stab a dude to death with that shit. While you might sit here and yell at me something like, "No, that's wrong! Visual novels aren't really games! There's no way that they can do that!" That's where I think you're wrong. Danganronpa isn't even a decade old yet, and it's already had this crazy effect on me. With this video, I wanted to, go into the series' history and talk about why I loved it so much, but I found that kind of difficult to do without jumping right into the spoiler territory. But at the very least, I hope that this video has interested you in, giving it a try if you like mystery games or just want to try something new. Mostly I just want more people to drown in despair with me, but that's okay, trust me. It's worth your time. Thanks to all the Patreon supporters who've supported me over the last year. Y'all have been wonderful. And remember, my name's Austin, and if you have the ahoge, you're the protagonist. Thank you so much for watching. Quick little update, YouTube's new algorithm for content creators seems to be getting a little stricter lately. Because of this, I'm no longer going to be streaming on YouTube as it's been hurting the channel, and I'm very sorry for that. If you want to catch the tri-weekly streams, hop on over to twitch.tv/Austin Eruption. Big shoutouts to all the Patreon supporters who make bigger retrospective videos like this possible. Y'all are the best. And if you'd like to pitch in, hang out in the Discord, and join us for the monthly game club, consider donating. As always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you dug the video, and I'll have more out soon. There might be some big surprises around the corner. Sleep well, friends.